My dad's mother and dad, Janice P. Nielsen, that was my dad's dad. I never ever got to meet him. I got a picture of me and my sister sitting on my grandpa's lap, but he died before I turned 1 year old, so I don't remember him at all. I don't ever remember my dad's mother. I remember Dad said that she could outwork any man. She was strong and she didn't mind working. Said she could, if anybody gave her problems, she'd just take care of them. Was the fourth family to move into Curlew Valley. The first 2 winters, well, and summers, they lived on jackrabbits. There were jackrabbits everywhere. And if you ever eat one, they're just like eating a chicken. They're good. And that's what they lived on till they started raising some beef. I said, well, why didn't you shoot a deer? And he says, we go deer hunting when they didn't have seasons back then. But he says, we'd go deer hunting. He says, we would hunt for a week before we ever saw a deer. And they were generally so far away you couldn't shoot at them anyway. So they lived on chickens and rabbits. My dad tells a story that he was about my size, but he went to the store and some big guy come in and said, I'm going to throw you out of this building. And my grandfather says, well, you can try. And he tried, and my grandfather picked him up and threw him out of the store. And he was, for his size, he was very strong, very, very strong. My dad was strong. He worked hard all his life, and that's the way he wanted his boys to be. Strong in physical and strong in the gospel. And we all was.
My grandma Jones, oh, I loved her. She was a tiny little thing, and she didn't have much in her life. And like I said, Grandpa died before I was born, so she raised the kids on very little. And my favorite memory of Grandma is we would go up to her house every Saturday, and she would let us pound on her piano and make messes, do whatever we wanted to do. She always had a big pan of rice pudding in her old oven, and it always smelled so good, and I still love rice pudding today with raisins. And then while Mom was fixing Grandma's hair and Aunt Maud's hair, us kids got to walk to the town to the store. It was just a few blocks, and buy penny candy and ice cream cone. And my favorite is black licorice and caramel ripple ice cream to this day. And my mother's favorite ice cream was maple nut. We had to get one for her and run home with it before it melted. So I just remember Grandma Jones. She never talked on, she was just old-fashioned. She never talked on a phone. She was scared to death of it. She never wanted to drive a car. One time one of the grandkids took a recorder there and wanted to record her life story, and it scared her so bad that she just cried and wouldn't do it because she just didn't like any of that stuff. So, but I remember going there with my mother, and we wallpapered her house, and we'd wash her walls, and we'd do her work and her laundry for her and go pay her bills, and it was fun. It was just fun. I enjoyed being around Grandma. My grandma was always kind, and she would do for you what she could, and I think she passed that on to all of us, that we wanted to do what we could for people and help them. Her house, she lived in a 2-room cabin, had all the children there, 9 children, 3 girls and 6 boys, and that house still stands today on Bannock Street. It's been sold many times, but this last guy that bought it remodeled it. And I went in when he was part done remodeling, and you'd never know it was the same place. And he tore the front room right down to the logs. And then he was going to finish them off. I never got to see that. He sold it now because he had heart trouble, and I don't know the people that have bought it. My grandma and grandpa Tubby were very good people, all of my parents and relatives were very good hard workers. My grandma Tubby had multiple sclerosis, and so I just mostly remember her being in her wheelchair. But it didn't stop her from going and doing things, because Grandpa brought her to reunions and picnics and visits and things. And Grandpa took all the care of her until she passed. My grandpa was a jokester, and so I guess that's why my dad got it. Because my dad was a joke, pulled jokes all the time. I can just remember my grandpa Tubby, we would go to the meadow and pick mushrooms. And then we'd go into the orchard where we had lots of trees and that, and there was a stream running all the time, and they grew watermelon there. And that's where we'd go to have picnics under the shade of the trees, and we did that often. And that was a lot of good memories.